Hi, this is a continuation of Unit B. When we last spoke, we did the sum, average, minimum, maximum capabilities, and also showed you how to show the formulas on the screen. If you're following along in the text, Excel page 26, creating complex formulas, Excel page 28, inserting a function, we worked through that, typing a function on page 30. I did not cover copy and moving cell entries because I really feel it's pretty much the same in any other product you use. But what I did want to what I wanted to mention to you is that you can do multiple cells. We talked a little bit about doing the equal sum. So if we did an equal sum and I come up and I select a range, right? And I hit enter and I can get the value. But what if I actually want to add two different ranges? I can do that. You can select the different areas to do that. And they call those non-adjacent type of cell entries. So I wanted to give you an example of that. So to do that, I would type equal sum, and then I could put in my range. So let's say I want to add up for test 1, and I'm going to put a comma this time. And then I want to add in for test 3. And notice that the first one is blue and the second one is green. And if I hit enter, or rather end my parenthesis, right? Don't forget to do that. And then enter, notice, now I know this is percentages, but you get the idea of it. So you can actually do then definitely handle non-adjacent type ranges to add together. So just be aware that you can do that on that. Okay, so other than that, make sure you go through the copy and moving cell entries item on there if you're not familiar with it. But what I want to talk to in this video is the absolutes. There's several kind of types of absolutes. We have a regular absolute, we have a mixed cell absolute, and we have regular entries. And you're like, what in the world is she talking about, right? So what I'm talking about, when we do a formula, when we actually do a formula and we talk about a regular column and row entry, B5 plus B6, those are regular type references. But when we talk about absolutes, what we're talking about, when I do a formula, I want to actually maintain in stabilize one part of the formula. So let's look at the example that I have on the screen. If you notice, what we have is we have one section here that says an increase, a decrease 1.25. This is an anticipated sales budget. We have the planned amount for each of the different customers, and then we have the actual. And what we're going to want to do is actually calculate this based on this 1.2. So I want to actually do an increased sales budget, taking the $34,109, timesing it by 1.2% to find out what the difference is. And we can do that by absolute. And why do I want to do that as absolute? Because remember, if we copy this, I can copy, right? Notice it's B6 through B15. If I copy that down, right? It didn't work, did it? Copy and paste. All right, how else could I have done that? What's the answer, right? The fill handle. We could have done the fill handle as well. Okay, notice what happened though. It went B6 times B15 and then B7 times B16. Well, guess what? It's not finding B16 because there's nothing in it, right? Because we got to keep that stable. Okay, the only way to do that is to do an absolute. And we would do that by keying in $sign. So if I key in a $sign before the B and a $sign before the 15, it means it's going to take the value of B6 and times it by whatever's in the value of B15. Okay, so let's hit enter. Let's put our cursor at the end of that and hit enter, and we get our response for that. So what I want to do now is use that fill handle and go down, and look what happens. I'm going to click on this next one. Notice it now goes from B7 to 1.2 again. Okay, so just by using the $signs, we were able to accomplish that. Okay, now there is a shortcut. I just undid a couple things I wanted to show you. If I highlight this number here and I use a function for key, notice it changed it to the absolute. Okay, if I hit it again, it's going to change it to a mixed. What do I mean by mixed? What I mean on this is notice it says B $15. That means B is going to change, but the 15 will always be the same, meaning row 15. If I hit it again, it's going to alternate it. It's going to say B is always going to be there, but 15 is going to change. And if I hit it again, it'll take it back. It's a revolving, it revolves. So I can keep hitting it. It'll keep going around and around and around until I get the one that I want. Well, I want which one? I want that one, right? So just another way to do an absolute very quickly. Okay, so we can just drag that down, and that'll give you your items there, right? Okay, so absolute. So we know the absolute end of it. The mixed part of it is just one portion of it has it. And these are actually covered on your page Excel 34. It actually goes through it, and then Excel page 36. So both of those pages cover that very well on there. Okay, also copying formulas with absolute cell references, page Excel 38. And then what I want to show you here is a little bit more complex item. Okay, and it's a little bit more advanced, but you should be able to do this. A little bit advanced more of what we did the first time we were here. So what I did is I have this payroll worksheet, and I just want to work through some of the formulas that would be used to calculate this. So let's look at this, gross. Gross. How do we calculate gross? Remember, I mentioned to you, you have to know in your head how you're going to calculate. Excel's not going to tell that to you. So a gross salary, I'm going to need to calculate what? I'm going to have to calculate my hours times my hourly wage, and then I'm going to have to calculate overtime. Overtime's time and a half. I want to make sure I get time and a half for the time I worked, times 55 hours at a half. So 55 plus half of 55, right? So a formula for this, a little bit more complex than what you're used to. So equals B29 times C29 plus, and let me get it out here and then I'll go over it. B79, and I'm going to use some absolutes here, and I'm going to show you why I'm using the absolute, times D29. And this is where I was talking about you got to make sure that you have all of your parentheses. Every parenthesis you have, you want to make sure that you have a closing parenthesis. So what I'm talking about here, let me get my pen on. If you notice, I have a parenthesis here, that's 1, and I have a parenthesis here, right? 2, and there's another one, 3 and 4. So I have an even number, so I'm good. I've got all the parentheses. If not, it would have came up green and told me I had an error. So that's how that works. But what did I do? I must have keyed something a wrong number. So let's look at it. I'm saying times, we're going to take B29, and actually it's 20. I've got the wrong reference lines in there. So let's change all those to 20s. 29, 29, right? And where's this sitting at B27? I bet you that'll work. 27, because I added lines to my worksheet, and I didn't realize I did that. Okay, and it looks like it's worked, but I just need to expand it out so we can see it. Okay, so their gross pay is $2,365. How did I come up with that? Look at what I've actually done, okay? What I've done is I've times, we're going to do the first part of it, right? We're going to do the parenthesis part of it, and I'm messing up my thing there. But what we're doing is we're taking B20. So B20s, we're taking the hourly wage, and we're timesing it by 1.5. That's our consistent. That's what's not going to move, right? And then we're timesing it by the hours. We're timesing it by 2. So that's going to give our rate for the overtime, okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the B20 times C20. What are we taking? We are taking B20, our hourly wage, times our hours, okay? And we're adding the results of those together, which comes out to our 2,365. So if I fill that in the rest of the way, that'll fill in the rest of the employees. But what about withholding? Withholding isn't as much. We don't have to deal with as much. Our withholding rate, if you notice on here, our withholding rate, I got out of the wrong screen, back. Our holding rate, I keep turning to turn this pen on and off. Okay, our withholding rate here is 28%. And notice our Social Security rate is 7.65. Okay. Hey, did you notice what happened? I have all these dashes coming down. This means that if I was going to print this page, that's where it would page break. So it doesn't look like it's going to split it if I wanted to print it right. But you know that from last Unit A, because we went through that in Unit A. or at least you went through an exercise with it. All right, so back to withholding. Withholding, we're actually going to take the value of the gross and we're going to times it by withholding. So much simpler on here. So if we go in E, we want to go, and I don't want to type it, right? I want to point to it. So E 20, and then we're going to multiply it by the withholding rate, okay? And to make it nice and simple, I can highlight that. So I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to hit function 4 to make it an absolute, right? I got off of it. Let's go back, function 4, and click on the end and enter, okay? And it should say E20 times F. Did I do it wrong? Nope, it should be E. I clicked on the wrong one. See? You still have to check it. Make sure it's right. Always check your calculations if it doesn't make sense. Now, does that really make sense? Oh, no, that doesn't make sense at all. What did I... Oh, I times it by... Where did I get 21? We want line 27. All right, that looks a little bit better. Oh, much, much better. Okay, but valid point. You got to look at your calculations. If it seems so far-fetched, like withholding tax that much, really? Come on. Okay, so I knew it was wrong, so I have to go back and double check what I'm doing on there. Okay, so lessons to the detail on that. All right, so withholding comes out to 662.20. And then the same thing with Social Security. Again, we can use that absolute. So if we take it equals, and I can point to the gross, and I can multiply it, and I can multiply it by the Social Security rate. And then on here, let's do that again. Let's do a function 4. And, oh, much better that time. Second time's a charm, right? Okay, and then what about our net? How do we get our net? All right, so think about it. Think about your own paycheck. All right, Uncle Sam's got to get his money, and so does Social Security. So we take the equal gross, right? We minus off the withholding tax. We minus off the Social Security, and that gives you what your check should be. Okay, different way of doing it. All right, so we could have done it that way. What if we did it this way, though? All right, what if we took... let's say equals E2020, and then in parentheses, all right, oh, we need to minus those, right? So a little bit different kind of formula here. I just want to show you a little different variation to show you the difference there. Okay, so what did I do? I added both the withholding, so I added both the withholding and the Social Security, and then I minused it, right? I did a minus from E20. Okay, so just another way of doing that. So again, all kinds of different ways to do your formulas. Is there one way better than the other? Yes, when you get into accounting, if you're a business major, if you're accounting major, yeah, it does matter how you key it in. They're going to be looking, especially you're going to be looking for more complex type of formulas. So in any case, this is all for the absolutes. Hope you don't have any problems with that, but just remember the function 4 keys, what maneuvers it around. $ means absolute. Talk to you in the next round.